provided to the committee by two IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, who came forward at great risk to their careers and reputations to bring to light evidence of corruption and misconduct within our federal government. On June 22nd, the committee voted to release the initial testimony of the two IRS whistleblowers that showed wrongdoing and misconduct at both the Department of Justice and the IRS. Their testimony then also shed light on a complex and lucrative enterprise operated by the Biden family to enrich themselves to the tune of at least $20 million, with much of Hunter Biden's share going unreported for taxes. In the months since, no one has offered any evidence that contradicts Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler's testimony. In fact, much of their testimony has been supported by additional IRS witnesses who set for transcribed interviews after being subpoenaed by this committee. The new information we just voted to release today further confirms their testimony. Let's look at what the new evidence released today shows. 1, it is clear that then Vice President Joe Biden's political power and influence was, quote, the brand that Hunter Biden was selling all over the world. Even more alarming, the Biden family foreign influence peddling operation suggests an effort to sway U.S. policy decisions. From documents released just moments ago, as you can see in the WhatsApp message behind me, from June 6, 2017, Hunter Biden explicitly wrote to a business associate that he was not willing to, quote, sign over my family's brand, close quote, or give this individual, quote, the keys to my family's only asset. That asset could only be one person, Joe Biden. IRS investigators provided worksheets they compiled as part of their investigation into Hunter Biden's tax crimes, which connect his business activities to official government activity while Joe Biden served as Vice President of the United States. This is new and alarming material the committee just made public. The very existence of this file makes it abundantly clear that IRS investigators were concerned there was in fact a connection between Hunter Biden's global influence peddling, Joe Biden, and official U.S. government activity. In one example, investigators documented how then Vice President Biden's April 2014 official visit to Ukraine occurred only days after a series of meetings between Hunter Biden, his business associate Devin Archer, senior staff within the Vice President's office, and Vice President Biden himself. We have received an email sent during that same time frame from an executive of Burisma, a Ukrainian company, to Devin Archer, saying a, quote, reasonable balance could be reached about Hunter Biden. 1 month later, Burisma announced Hunter Biden's appointment to its board. In another example from today's material, then Vice President Joe Biden hosted Hunter and two of his business associates, including billionaire Miguel Alemán, at the White House in February of 2014, where they had lunch, quote, in Dad's office. Just 3 months later, Hunter Biden sent an email to Devin Archer saying, quote, we need to get to Mexico City and cement the deal with Miguel. Public records show Joe Biden later used Air Force Two to shuttle Hunter and another business associate, Jeff Cooper, to Mexico City in 2016. These documents also underline how Hunter Biden's role as, quote, door opener extended far beyond his father and includes numerous other meetings between Hunter Biden and senior U.S. government officials, including now Secretary of State Antony Blinken. 2, the evidence today shows the complexity and scale of the Biden family influence peddling scheme. Millions of dollars were flowing through subsidiaries and LLCs to avoid taxes and shield visibility into how the money from foreign sources, including countries like Ukraine, Russia, China, went to different entities and Biden family members. The additional whistleblower documents we just released specifically mentioned 23 foreign countries on 4 different continents with connections to Hunter Biden's business operations. The map behind me shows the sheer scale and scope of this global operation. Lastly, in the whistleblower's original testimony, we learned DOJ took unprecedented action to impede any investigative step that could have led investigators to President Joe Biden. As you can see here in this new material, the whistleblowers have provided an email in support of their earlier testimony where U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf directs investigators to remove all mentions of, quote, political figure 1 from a search warrant. And who is political figure 1? I would think you would ask. That individual is none other than former Vice President Joe Biden. Here we see clear as day that the Department of Justice actively interfered in an investigation to protect the current president of the United States. Additionally, in January of 2022, Attorney Wolf declined to pursue campaign finance violations identified by investigators potentially related to more than $2 million in payments from Kevin Morris, a Democrat Party donor, to cover Hunter Biden's unpaid tax liabilities. In the documents we voted to release today, U.S. Attorney Wolf stated she, quote, is not personally interested in following the lead the investigators identified. Another piece of evidence implicating Joe Biden, and in this case, his presidential campaign, stopped dead in its tracks. In an interview with investigators, James Biden, the president's brother, stated that he did not know how Hunter Biden even knew Kevin Morris, who was paying Hunter Biden's taxes, or why Kevin Morris was helping Hunter Biden. The transcript of the interview contained in today's materials shows that James Biden told investigators Hunter Biden asked him to thank Mr. Morris for his payment, quote, on behalf of the family. It is reasonable to ask who requested that Kevin Morris cover Hunter Biden's tax liability, or whether he received something in return for his more than $2 million in payments to someone that he barely knew. Based on this evidence and much more in the documents we voted to release today, along with evidence obtained by the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee, I have serious concerns about whether the President of the United States, Joe Biden, may be compromised by his son's foreign business dealings. I also have serious concerns about whether the president may be using his administration to protect himself and his family from scrutiny. The American people, they have a right to know their elected representatives are not abusing public office to enrich themselves or their families. They also have a right to know if federal law enforcement agencies are holding the powerful and the politically connected to the same standard of justice as everyone else. I will be happy to answer your questions at the end, but I'd like to turn it over to Mr. LaHood.
Well, thank you, Chairman Smith. I think the information that was released today shows the web of criminality by Hunter Biden and the Biden family and corroborates the information that we received initially from the whistleblowers. I want to make 2 points. One is going back to early June when the decision was made by Chairman Smith in this committee to have the whistleblowers' transcripts released. That was on June 22nd. The notice on that went out on June 19th. On June 20th, remember, a plea was announced in the Hunter Biden case and was presented to a federal judge in Delaware. I will tell you this, as a former federal prosecutor, 99% of plea agreements go through and are approved by the judge. This one was not. Judge Norica in Delaware decided to reject this plea agreement. And what is the basis for rejecting a plea agreement? It's under statute, new and compelling evidence that was revealed. That was put forth in our brief that we submitted to the court and many others. That plea agreement, which is rarely done, was rejected. And if we had not brought that forth, if Chairman Smith and this committee had not done this, Hunter Biden would have already entered that plea agreement to a misdemeanor. And so, again, the information released today continues to corroborate that information that was real. And remember, this was a federal judge that's a Title III judge, lifetime appointment, independent judge. Rejected this, which is rare and never done. Second point that I would make, look at the chronology going back to 2014. We're 9 years into this. Hunter Biden took over $19 million that is corroborated in the evidence released today. 20 different shell companies and LLCs that were a part of this that the whistleblowers brought forth. The statute of limitations was allowed to be waived for taxes in 2014 and 15. I will tell you this as a federal prosecutor, criminal charges are never allowed to lapse. Statute of limitations is never allowed to be waived or to lapse. That was done in this case. Fast forward to when the whistleblowers got involved in this case. As we stand here today, we're 9 years into this, Hunter Biden has still not been charged with anything tax-related. $20 million from at least 7 different countries, LLCs created in 20 different entities, and no indictment today. And what I made the point today is, by the way, you don't get any response from our Democrat colleagues on how that is explainable, how that is even justified. And what infuriates people is the unequal application of the law. And the fact that your last name's Biden or you're connected, you're going to be treated differently. And it was brought up today about President Trump and 91 charges. In the last 18 months, 4 indictments against President Trump in 18 months. We've been 9 years into this, not one indictment by DOJ. That is disturbing to all of us. I invite all of you to read the documents here today. It appears at every level, Joe Biden and his team have stopped DOJ from moving forward and implementing justice. Thank you.
Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a former United States attorney, and I think that I'm the last Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney in the House of Representatives. What we've seen from the Department of Justice, either slow-walking or deliberately stalling charges or letting charges expire, should be appalling to everybody. I know it certainly is to all of us. First of all, I appreciate the 2 whistleblowers coming forward at the expense of their career, the possibility that their careers could have been ended, because they were also concerned at what they saw as the miscarriage of justice. One person being treated differently than the other, along with the possible involvement of Joe Biden. And if I could, this email that Chairman Smith referred to a moment ago, I want to point a few things out. It is from Leslie Wolf. It is dated August 7th of 2020, about 2 months, 3 months before the election. This BS SW draft, SW is search warrant draft, I think BS is Blue Star. This is giving permission to have the search warrant executed. That last line of Leslie Wolf's email, there should be nothing about political figure 1 in here. I know we all have this concern, and I think all of our constituents, everybody in America should have the concern Why is this assistant U.S. attorney removing any possibility of having anything in the search warrant related to Joe Biden, who was the former vice president, who could be a future president? Again, political figure one is identified as former Vice President Joseph Biden Jr. It's about a two-tiered system of justice. If Joe Biden's name had been Smith or Jones or Johnson, he would not have been excluded from this search warrant. But yet he was. And we wouldn't have known that unless the whistleblowers came forward. And you wouldn't know it, and the American people wouldn't know it unless we just took this vote to release the information to the public. There are a lot of documents, a lot of emails that have been just been voted on to be released. Pay attention to that. Also, if you would, pay attention to the Ziegler affidavit, the first exhibit. He says a lot of things in that exhibit, dated, that affidavit August of this year, August of 2023. He identifies over $19 million in payments, over $19 million in payments to Hunter Biden from foreign sources. That's why all this is important. I appreciate the effort of Chairman Smith, this committee, these two investigators from the IRS who are willing to come forward. And at this time, I'd like to call the committee, the Oversight Subcommittee, Chairman Schweikert.
Very kind, thank you. Look, it's a lot of reading. You have several hundred pages on this added into what was put out a couple months ago. If you have the opportunity to start to work through it, you got many different storylines you can all work on. But one that I find most concerning to me personally is we live in a country where we no longer believe in our institutions. You all see the polling, what we believe in the press, what we believe in those who are elected. Read through this and you'll start to understand that distrust may be quite justified. People are being treated very, very differently because they're part of the political aristocracy. If you're going to have a functioning representative democracy, the chairman's absolutely right. We need to do our work here. We need to bring sunshine into how differently people in this are being treated. And then maybe once we've exposed that, we can go back to starting to build some trust back in our institutions. But take this seriously, because this is more than just a story about family who's in the White House or who's in the White House itself. It's also how the police bureaucracy, the law enforcement bureaucracy, were willing to block, tackle, change the rules for certain people, something none of you would ever receive.
As we've moved forward with this investigation, it's like a puzzle, and every single day we get more and more pieces. People ask, why do you want to get this information out there? And quite frankly, after having read the testimony, after having looked at the emails, the picture is coming very clear. Not only do you have a two-tiered system, not only do you have politicians at the highest echelons of our U.S. fabric who are willing to sell themselves out, sell their country out, sell their positions and enrich their families, but you also have bureaucrats that are so embedded in the system that they are happy to play along and protect these people. What we have found with our whistleblowers is people who are hard-working American federal workers who want to get down to the bottom. They are non-political. They don't care. But they have a job and they take it seriously. And what you see time and time again from these emails is they're thwarted from doing their job. They have policies that are thrown in front of their face. When they're getting ready to travel, to go investigate, to go talk to a witness, they're told, oh, you didn't fill this paperwork out. We changed it at the last minute. We've changed our policies. When they continue to push forward, you get them, oh, no, you can't talk to that witness. No, you can't ask those questions. It's too political. It's too close to the campaign. When they keep pushing forward and they show that there's probable cause, you've got those same embedded bureaucrats who sell them out and actually tip off the people who are being investigated. This would not have happened if or not the connection to Joe Biden, then Vice President Biden. And then you have to look at the emails. You have got to look at the questions from CNN themselves, who have actually connected an email from Hunter Biden that said, hey, I thought all of this stuff was going to go away when my dad became president. Do you think anybody else would have received that type of treatment? Absolutely not. The two-tier justice system has got to be exposed. And not only do we have to expose the politicians who are corrupt and endangering our country on a daily basis, but also those bureaucrats that protect them and are all too willing to play along.
Questions? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, question just about the timing of all of this. You're talking about a two-tiered system of justice. If I'm not mistaken, August 7th, 2020, Bill Barr was the Attorney General and Donald Trump was the president. So explain to me where the two-tiered system of justice comes into play. And then the WhatsApp message you have, I believe is dated June 6, 2017. Joe Biden is not vice president or even a candidate for president at that time. So where is the direct connection to some sort of criminal malfeasance within these two pieces of evidence?
Well, I think the facts speak for themselves. There's over 700 pages of examples of where people should be very concerned. When you're talking about what was your first question?
The timing of this is August 7th, 2020. Bill Barr is the Attorney General. Donald Trump's the president.
Yeah, and Leslie Wolf is a career employee. She was not a political appointee, and she was the one obstructing the investigation. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. We need to make sure that the Department of Justice works for all people and doesn't treat those who are politically connected or wealthy much differently. And unfortunately, we have several examples that came forward by the two IRS whistleblowers that proves that people are treated differently because they're politically connected.
Haven't you suggested that Joe Biden being the president now is unfairly treating Donald Trump in his indictments?
What I'm talking about is the 700 pages that we have before us, which is all the information that came from the IRS whistleblowers, and that's what we're releasing right now. And I'll tell you, I would encourage everyone in this room to look at those 700 pages. If you think it's okay with what's in it, then we live on two different planets.
Can you explain the timing then of the August 6th WhatsApp message? Why is that evidence of some wrongdoing?
I'm not an expert on the timeline. I would love to have President Biden and his family to tell us about all the timelines, because it's really, really unfortunate that we see so many meetings and so many phone calls that involved around official activity that the vice president has been participating in, and then big sums of money follows later
But if he's
through.
not the president or the vice president at that time, where's the wrongdoing? He wasn't even a candidate for president at that time.
He was a candidate.
On August 6th of
So apparently,
2017,
what source are you with?
I'm with NBC.
So apparently, you'll never believe us.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
but that-
I'm asking you a very direct question. You presented a piece of evidence that you say came on August 6, 2017, that demonstrates that Joe Biden was using political influence to help his son. If he wasn't a political figure at that time, the first WhatsApp message you put up, where you talk about the brand, and I'm completely open-minded about this. I'm asking you specifically, how does that demonstrate that there's some sort of political influence being put over him if at that time he's not an elected official?
I'm definitely not going to pinpoint one item. I think we've
You
outlined
presented it.
numerous.
It's the first thing that you brought up.
So apparently you don't agree with it. So
It's not
report
I
that
don't
you
agree
disagree
it.
with
I'm
it.
asking you to explain it.
I'll take the next question. Yes.
On this slide that you've got, it talks about the search warrant draft. Have you guys released, or will you be releasing the before and after text of the search warrant? Like, do you have as it was before it was edited, and then after it was edited?
If you recall, the IRS whistleblowers came to us in April. In May and in June, we did the depositions. On June 22nd, we released the 15 hours worth of depositions. And then in July, the Oversight and Accountability Committee had a hearing. And at that hearing, those two IRS whistleblowers testified and was asked numerous questions by Democrat and Republican members of Congress that they were not able to answer because of 6103 authority, private taxpayer information. The only way that information could be answered is if they would submit that to the Ways and Means Committee and that we would vote to make that public. That's in fact what we did today. We only made public what they gave us from addition from the oversight hearing. So everything of the 700 pages that we released is what the 2 IRS whistleblowers gave us.
And does that include the before and after language of this particular search warrant in the 700 pages you guys released?
I don't know the answer to that. It's 700 pages. I gave you a portion of it. Yes.
Excuse me. Democrats have said that you guys have only spoken to 4 people who were involved in this 7-8 year case out of 60 people, both IRS, DOJ, FBI that were involved. Do you plan to subpoena or send requests for the rest of the individuals that were involved in the Hunter Biden case to get the full picture of what happened?
Yeah, great question. 3 days after we released the whistleblower testimony on June 22nd, we asked for 13 people to come before us. IRS agents, FBI employees, Secret Service. This administration has stalled those requests. We did subpoena 4 of those that we just recently finished their depositions in the last 2 weeks. It took us 3 months to get 4 people because of how the administration, Joe Biden's administration, is blocking their employees from speaking to Congress. This is probably the first time in the history of Congress that we've seen a special counsel appointed to obstruct a congressional investigation. And that's in fact what we're seeing out of this administration.
And secondly, to go back to the timeline of August 2020, will you be asking Bill Barr or anyone from the Trump Justice Department to come in and talk about their time on this case?
We have a long list of people that we are trying to come in to answer questions. We're following the facts, and we're going to see where the facts lead us.
Can I add something on that?
Yes.
Chairman Smith. So to both your questions on the timeline, I think it's important to remember the U.S. attorney at the time, David Weiss, was put forth by the 2 Democrat senators from Delaware. So it was their choice for the U.S. attorney, Mr. Weiss. We would love to talk to Leslie Wolf. If you read through the affidavits from the whistleblowers, they say under oath, Leslie Wolf put a stop to it. She's a career federal prosecutor in Delaware. She has not come forward. We haven't had the ability to talk to her. We'd love for her to go to the Judiciary Committee, be put under oath, and explain why she stopped this investigation at every level. That pinpoints the exact time that you're talking about there, but they have not come forward. They have not been revealing. None of that information has come forth.
Yes.
What do you expect the Ways and Means Committee's involvement to be moving forward on the impeachment inquiry? You know, you just used Power 6103. Do you think you would use it again, or would it be through subpoenas? You know, how do you expect that to move forward?
You know, we're definitely moving, we're going to follow the facts, like I said. There's several individuals that we want to hear from. Leslie Wolf is one of the 13 that we requested the last week in June. So there's numerous individuals. We're going to continue to push for them to come forward and answer the questions that we have. Yes.
On the impeachment hearing tomorrow, you're going to be there. What is it that Republicans are hoping to accomplish with this? What is the goal of this hearing when it doesn't have Hunter Biden associates, when it doesn't have Biden administration officials or somebody like Leslie Wolf, just these experts? What's the point of this particular hearing?
There's definitely a lot of questions about what is an impeachment inquiry, what does that encompass, what's going on, and what is precedent in the past. A lot of that, according to what you see as the witnesses, that is what I would predict that you're going to hear at that hearing. I'm not the chairman. Jamie Comer is the chairman of oversight. I'll be waving on, but that is my projection of what you're going to hear at the hearing. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just your response to this. Shortly after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced there was bipartisan support for the Senate's version of continuing resolution, several Senate Democrats, including Senator Brown of Ohio, today slammed House Republicans' priorities going after this impeachment inquiry after today's press conference with Ways and Means. Your response to, while House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced that a continuing resolution, he wants to bring it forward, it doesn't appear that they have the votes yet to pass that by the end of the week. Should House Republicans be focusing on these other priorities and not averting government shutdown.
House Republicans can walk and chew gum. We're pretty good at that, and that's exactly what we're doing. I have full faith that we'll be able to deliver funding. I will point out that the United States Senate has yet to pass one appropriations bill. One. They've not even passed one. They said 3 weeks ago that they were going to pass some. We have passed bills. We were here at 12:30 last night voting on appropriations bills. The Senate has not taken one vote on the Senate floor in regards to appropriations. So they can do a lot of talking, but I haven't seen any action of them. Thank you all very much.